Hello and welcome to Let's Discuss with Meg Duke. I am Meg Duke. I am like my face is busting with joy for those of you who are watching this on the video side. I am beyond excited. I have my first guest. And not only do I have my first guest, she is a gem. She is majestic. I actually asked her to write her own intro because I knew I was going to be really embarrassing if I said too much about her. So I am excited and thrilled to introduce you to Jensine Casey. She is the owner of Baby O and I Consulting. She works with families and children age 4 and younger to meet your ideal sleep situation. And as a mom of 2 with a third on the way and a former developmental specialist in early intervention, she knows a lot about sleep. She actually is the one who sleep trained my first one. So without further ado, let's welcome her. Hello. Hello. It looks like it's working.
Yeah.
I let the family know, like, this is my first time, so we'll see how it goes. I could not be more excited to welcome you. I just did your introduction, and I was just curious. I wanted to start out with, how do we know each other?
Yes. So I don't even know how long ago it was now. I believe we met on Instagram.
Yes.
And, and we helped your oldest son get some sleep. At that time, he was your only one too. So feels like it was a lifetime ago.
I know, it's so crazy, doesn't it feel like that? And yeah, so he was actually 4 months old, which means we met almost exactly 2 years ago. And
wow.
Yeah, Instagram, isn't it funny how many people you feel like close to, and you're like, I've actually never physically been in the same room.
Yes. Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, I've never breathed the same oxygen, which
yeah.
at this point now, that's a good thing because of COVID.
Seriously.
But in 2019.
I can't believe it. Two years, I would say no. But that's
so crazy. So crazy.
Wow.
So excited to talk about sleep because I feel like none of us are getting it. Or at least enough, or the right, whatever the right way is. So I was really excited to learn, like, how, I know you've got your degree in the early childhood. How did you become so passionate about sleep?
Well, it's funny. Looking back at my life, I probably was destined to do this. I've always been a sleeper. I never stopped napping. Just my whole I'd come home from high school, eat a snack, take a nap, do my homework. That was just my routine. My parents gave me a 9:30 bedtime in middle school, never wavered from it, never questioned it. I still go to bed at 9:30 because that's my bedtime. So it's so funny that my whole life is just looking back has been very regimented around sleep. So maybe this was destined, but I just didn't know it yet. But when I officially started thinking about it, when I was in early intervention, and I found that no one was napping, no one was sleeping. All of these children under the age of 3 and their families were really struggling with sleep. So I used to come in and ask about okay, developmentally, how are they doing? What's going on? But then I had to switch it to, well, how are they sleeping? Are they sleeping at all? Mm-hmm. And then once we got that part of it under control, then we could start to work on the development. And that's when they really started to make all of these strides. So that kind of unofficially got me into it. But once I had my oldest son, Owen, that really threw me into the trenches because I thought I knew everything about sleep and I did not. Doing it 24/7 is so different from here's these strategies, go for it. So with him, when he had trouble sleeping, he was super inconsistent. He would have amazing weeks and then days on end where he just was up multiple times at night. So once I really started to look at it for him, it kind of started to click. But then once I was looking for something to do outside of early intervention, when I knew our second son was on the way, that's when I actually found sleep consulting because it was relatively new, still kind of is.
Sure.
I never heard of it as a profession. I didn't know it existed, but once I found it, it just felt right.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so great. And it's so interesting to hear coming from that behavioral developmental space where it's like people have these issues that their children are experiencing and they come to you for assistance and it's like, oh, well, tell me about their day, and that lack of consistency and routine. And again, the sleep specifically being, so that's amazing that you were able to kind of be like, I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yes. Yes. And it's funny that a lot of parents would tell me they would keep their child up during the day in hopes that they would sleep at night. And it's yes, I see the logic in that for adults.
Yes.
But it doesn't work that way for children. So they were actually like creating more problems than they were solving.
Yes.
Because an overtired child is just going to still be that overtired child at night.
Right.
But not be able to regulate and get themselves to sleep. So
absolutely,
a cycle that gets worse and worse and worse.
Absolutely. It's funny, on my notes, I actually I wrote down sleep begets sleep. Like
exactly
for children. Obviously, I would have a much different conversation for an adult client of mine who is napping all day. I'm like, well, no wonder you're staying up at 4 o'clock in the morning because you're sleeping all day. But when you're talking about a baby or a toddler, under 4, absolutely. And I do find, my babies are very different than everyone else's, but when they nap better, they sleep better at night.
Exactly.
And so I can totally, like you said, I can totally see the logic of like, oh, well, I just made sure to keep them up a little longer. And then it's like, oh, no.
Yeah. And then it's just confusing of like, okay, but you should be so tired right now. Why can you not just close your eyes and go to sleep?
Yes.
And that's also a big factor in it too, where it seems like sleep is so needed. It's so basic, kind of like, you should just be able to close your eyes and go to sleep. And it's not that black and white. There's so much more involved in it.
Yes.
But it definitely makes you feel bad if like, why can my child not just lay down and fall asleep like everybody else is? So there's definitely some mom guilt associated with sleep too, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. As with basically literally anything that goes with a parent, especially with social media and the Pinterest moms, and like there's too much information out there, so we don't know which one is the right information. But absolutely, I mean, it's like a personal thing of like, oh, I've done something wrong because my child's not sleeping, and then of course I'm exhausted, so then I'm emotionally and physically drained, and then I'm blaming and judging myself because. Right. And so it's
terrible. Yeah. You have to sleep. Everybody needs sleep. So if it comes to a point where you're just doing whatever you need to do to get sleep, I completely understand that, because you can't function. You can't be a person without that sleep. So that's really like, that's my biggest thing, is always try not to take it personally. It's nothing that you've done. It's nothing that your baby has done. Sometimes it's just kind of luck of the draw. There's definitely nature and nurture associated with sleep. Some babies are born and they sleep. Like that's that 3-week-old that your neighbor has that sleeps through the night, and they never did anything. They came home from the hospital and they slept through the night. And then here's your baby at like 3 who has never slept through the night. So it's really just kind of the baby you get is the baby you get, but that doesn't mean that you can't do anything to help them.
Right. That's absolutely correct. Because I have some people in like my July 2019 moms group on Facebook, and they're like, my kids never slept through the night ever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're over 2. Like our kids are over 2 now. You've gone 2 years and you've never slept through the night. Like, you poor thing.
Yes, it's a very long time. Yeah.
It's so much. And like I said, so my daughter, I remember the first time my son slept through the night, I actually had to get up around 5 o'clock in the morning and pump because my breasts were just not having it. And of course I wasn't going to wake him up. I'm like, that was the other thing too, is I kept waking up being like, why hasn't he woken up yet? Okay. Are you breathing? Okay. No, he's okay.
You have to train yourself. That's a big piece too that I always talk about with parents that I work with, because once your child, like, you're so programmed to wake up at these times too. So once your child starts to sleep longer stretches, you have to relearn how to sleep those longer stretches yourself, because it's not going to just come naturally. You're going to naturally wake up. You're going to be startled. You're going to be scared. So it's definitely an adjustment period for everybody.
And that's something that I honestly hadn't thought about. right? Like I wouldn't even consider like, oh, I need to learn how to sleep more than 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you do. It's weird.
Yeah.
You think it's just gonna like come, but it doesn't.
Yeah. And it's funny because people would tell me, they're like, oh, your babies are going to be so different. And I thought, well, my first one had wild reflux and also had colic. So I was like, maybe this one won't have reflux and colic. And now she definitely kept the reflux, but I'll take that over the colic 7 days twice on Sunday. So, but yeah, it is really interesting to see how, and he wouldn't let me put him down all of maternity leave. Like he wanted to sleep on me. He slept in the bassinet for 3 months. The very first night we came home from the hospital, I don't even remember it, but I just remember being like, she's not going to sleep in this bassinet. She was uncomfortable. She was fidgeting, fussing. So I was like, well, let's just try. Let's just put her down in the crib in her room and see how she's never slept in our room at night. And
it's same parents, like same environment, but it's so different, such a different experience. And she, like being the second too, sometimes that kind of naturally lends to, I don't have the hands and the time and the space to hold you the whole time that I did with your older siblings. So
that's right.
My second son definitely, I was a sleep consultant at that point, so it's really hard to tell because I did so many different things with him just from birth.
Right.
But he figured it out a lot faster and a lot easier because he had to be put down more often. I also had a 2-year-old, not even 2-year-old, when he was born. So he couldn't open his own snacks, couldn't change his own diaper, he couldn't do anything. So I had to put my baby down way more often. So that definitely, I feel like, contributed to him, where he's just Mr. Independent, and it worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you just said that, and that talking about like changing his own diaper and like opening his own snacks. I remembered I was breastfeeding my daughter and my son was like, I need to poop. And so of course I'm like, of course he wants to poop. Like, so then he goes and like, I have to like, while I'm holding her on my breast friend and like trying to help him push his pants down, like but of course he wanted to sit on the mini toilet, not the big toilet, which means then I had to clean the poop out of the toilet. Just I was like, and I'm like, it's great because he's pooping on the toilet, like, and he's not having an accident, and how wonderful. And then it's like, oh, and my husband was traveling for work. It was just like one of those.
It's one of those days.
And so I was able to do it where I could keep her on the breast, but like I just remembered thinking like, so I think we're just all gonna have to learn that no one's getting 100% of anybody's attention anymore.
No, and it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. So I've been thinking about that too, trying to gear up for we're having another one soon in like 6-ish weeks.
Yes. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Already
trying to prep everything. Like, what can I do to have you two set up where you can easily grab a snack? Like right now it's up in a cabinet that they can't reach. What can I do to make you two a little bit more independent? So even if you just grab the snack and bring it to me to open, that's a little bit easier. And I get my youngest potty trained before the baby comes.
Yes.
Probably not.
Yeah, right.
We're thinking about, my oldest was so easy. We took the diaper off one day, 4 days of accidents on the floor. He's gone ever since.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah.
My youngest,
doesn't like to leave it.
He wants to stand up. That's the problem. Oh my gosh. He's not ready to stand up.
No.
But everybody else stands up.
Oh,
Dada and Big Brother stand up.
Yes. So, yes.
Human sit is not easy.
I mean, I've gone into unisex bathrooms in public spaces, and there are adult men who still can't stand up very well. So I don't.
That's where I'm like, well, there's gonna be pee everywhere anyway, so might as well just add you in too. So.
Oh my goodness, that is so funny. But that is interesting to see how they, the firstborn does what the firstborn does, but then the secondborn is like, oh, well, they're doing that, so let me just do the same. Yeah, we're just going to do the same thing. And it's like, well, they're like 2 years older.
Steps. You missed the beginning part of this, but we got to go back to that for you. So he's ready to be, he's a big boy, he says.
Yeah, well, that is one of the things. I read a book about toilet training, and they were saying like, you have to make sure that they feel like a big boy, right? It's no longer, there's no more baby talk. There's no, you're not the baby. It's not like we used to do baby massage time every night. And we had to change it to Tracy's massage time because it's like, well, he's not a baby anymore.
Yeah, I know, but that also makes it sad too.
I know. And then there's like, this is everything has an emotional component to it. Everything has a sense of guilt. Like, am I forcing him to do something? But if I don't do it now, and then it's like, but my baby's gone and like, it's going to be very difficult. I remember when I was going through like the newborn clothes and passing them on to friend pregnant and being like, that's okay, we'll see him again. And then with this time when I was packing them all up, I was like, I'm never gonna see this one again.
Yes. I had such a hard time because I had 2 boys and I knew I was gonna reuse them, but this time I was taking out like the Mr. Handsome ones and like that. And I was like, oh, I remember when he wore this. So it's just, I mean, it's like that with everything, even sleep wise, you move them from a swaddle to a sleep sack. Like, oh, like they move to a big kid bed and you're like, no, this can forever. It's just, there's always something that comes up, and just even recognizing that like my child may be ready for this, but maybe I'm not ready for this. So you want to make sure that everybody is on the same page.
Yes.
Especially with sleep training, like maybe your child is showing signs that they want to be a little bit more independent. If the things that you used to do, the rocking, the holding, the feeding, are no longer working, right? Maybe that's their way of telling you, I want to be a little bit more independent here. The parent that's kind of holding on to that connection emotionally.
Yes.
So it's really like taking that step back and knowing, okay, are we ready as a family to like make this transition?
Yes.
So that can be a really hard step.
It is. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it is. And it's like, you always, I mean, if you're listening to this show, obviously you're trying to do things right by your children. Like you're trying to learn new things. If you're a parent out there, I would say most parents are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to what's best for my kiddo individually. And it's like, you do have to like acknowledge those moments. And like, this is a big deal. I remember we took the front of my son's crib off because I'm telling you what, a guardian angel picked me up and carried me across that room. He climbed out of his crib and made no attempt to like duck and roll. It was the weirdest, like flankiest. And I screamed his name. I don't know how I got across the room to catch him. It was bizarre. And I remembered, I was like, that's it. I'm taking the front of this crib off. And I was like, and for me, it was a very procedural moment. It was like, if he's going to crawl out of this crib, he's going to hurt himself because he's not doing it very well. My girlfriend was just texting me yesterday and said that her son crawled out of his crib for the first time. And she was like, and thankfully he ducked and rolled, And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, mine did not have that information. But it was funny because in the moment I was like, we're doing this, it's happening, we're going whatever, no questions asked. But and then I remembered we were like, well, we were moving to a new house, so then let's just buy him a twin bed, and I'm pregnant, so the baby's gonna need the crib anyway, so But it is, it's like that is a really big moment when your child is no longer in a crib. It's like they're no longer a baby. I mean, and it's not like there are many different ways to denote the change, but and that emotional component that goes with it is important. It's important to acknowledge, and depending on the importance of the situation, wait till you're ready, or if they need to do it right there, then they need to do it right then, but then still be able to process that with your girlfriend or your partner. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It just feels momentous, and like even having a way to celebrate it for you, for them.
Oh yeah. I remember. Yeah, we use the Ollie Swaddles, which they're not a sponsor of the show, but if they want to be, someone give me a call. I will happily tell people of the glory. We use them with both. And I remember the last night we used the Ollie Swaddle with my second, and Austin and I literally like had a moment of like, we were holding them to put them away, and we were just like, thank you. Yes. Thank you for all your service.
Yes, to acknowledge thank you for the amazing job that you did. You helped us a lot along the way.
Yes.
And now we are, moving into a new phase. So
yes. Absolutely. And I'm delighted to be able to pass them along to the next person because they did work so well for both of our kiddos. And again, every baby is so different. I was actually really nervous. I was like, these are nice, expensive pieces. I hope that the second one, and she did so well with them too, for as long as she did. But yeah, so yeah, it's just like, it was silly. It was, we were just like,
no, but that's, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So what do you feel like is something that's helpful for people to know? Obviously, it's a much more intensive thing than just listening to one quick podcast. But what are some of the things that you do that help the transition that you feel like are the most impactful, most meaningful, high level takeaways with the sleep training piece?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say kind of blanket overall. I would say the biggest thing for me that I do is help you realize what are your sleep goals? What do you individually want for your family? Because I think online it's really hard. There are so many programs, there are so many strategies, there are so many recommendations. People swear by this swaddle, by this bassinet, by this sheet, and all of these things that made all of the difference for their child.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe their child had all these other foundational things and that sleep staff was just like put them over the edge. But maybe your child doesn't have those things. So just, kind of starting in the middle isn't going to work for them.
Right.
So really as a sleep consultant, I love being able to come to a family and say, okay, where are you? Like, what is happening now? And where would you like to be? I always say, if you could wave a magic wand, what would your sleep situation look like? Perfect. Because for some families, that's going to be, I put you in your crib, I walk out of the room, you fall asleep on your own, I greet you in the morning at 7 a.m.
Yes.
Some families, that can't work.
Right.
They need to have 2 night feeds because their child isn't gaining weight or isn't eating well during the day. Absolutely. Our schedule is a little bit crazy because we both work overnights every other night. So we need, I have a family that they need an 8 a.m. wake up, but they can't put their little one down until like 8:45 at night because of their work schedules. So that's going to be a little bit different from like another family who is on a 7 to 7 schedule. So it's so varied, it's so different, but really finding something that makes you comfortable and sticking with it. To me, it doesn't even matter what that strategy is. There are so many strategies, they all work. It's just what's going to work for you. That's the big difference, because there's like extinction. I mean, cryo out and extinction are different. Extinction is literally like, I put you in, I walk out, I don't come back in for any other reason. Yes, that's super effective, but it's really, really hard to do.
Yes. So, I literally can't imagine. Noise canceling headphones I'd need.
That's it. Like, it works, but if it's going to be really hard on you as a parent, it doesn't work for you.
Right.
And that's fine. So whatever you find online, whatever someone recommends to you, you really have to sit with yourself and say, how do I feel about this? I can't just do this because somebody is telling me to do it. I have to do it because I like this plan. It sounds good to me. It's something that I know that I can stick with consistently. So
right. And that's what I loved.
The biggest thing.
Yeah. And that's what I really loved about working with you, is that obviously with sleep training, there's gonna be some crying.
Exactly.
But I love that you were so passionate about, like, it's not cry it out. It's not just like, all right, hang out in here and and so it was and so I remember the very first night, it was like 48 minutes of the before he had fallen asleep, and I put like a headphone in and was like, had Brooklyn Nine-Nine playing in one ear, just to kind of like dampen it for me. But I was still in the room with him. I was right there. And I think that was what was so helpful for me as a parent, because I do know that I've seen the research studies, didn't do the research myself, of course, that have shown like sleep begets sleep and how much better it is for children to get on that. So it was very important for me to have the training done, and also not selfishly, we need a different word if I could be quickly tangential, like not selfish, like we're taking a 10-hour road trip and I'm only going to play the Backstreet Boys because I know you hate Backstreet Boys, but I don't care. That's like selfish, right?
I mean, Backstreet Boys is pretty good though. So if you don't like the Backstreet Boys,
that's your problem. Right? But like then the other kind of selfish where it's like self-care. Like I selfishly wanted to be able to sleep better. So did my partner. Like we wanted to be able to be better for our professions and more importantly, be more awake and more alert to play with our son. And by him sleeping better, he'll be in a better mood. We'll be in a better mood. We'll all be physically better. So, but yeah, and so that was very important for me to be able to do it, but in a way that wasn't just pop you in a room and I go downstairs and I don't have to.
Well, that's what I tell families too, is that I want the time that you spend with your child to be good quality time.
Yes.
I don't want it to be this like, you're tired and cranky, they're tired and cranky.
Yes.
You're just trying to make it through until the next nap time.
Yes.
You don't nap. Now it's like, you're just compiling that no break on top of the lack of sleep that you had from the overnight. And it's just the time that you're spending together is not great time. Like you're both just dreading it. No one is happy. That's not what you want. You want the times that you are together to be like, we're in a great mood. We're fun. We're playful. We're enjoying each other. Absolutely. And then the times that you're not together, they are taking a break. You are getting a break. Mm-hmm. It's just, it just lends to such a happier home.
Yes.
And helping you to be the parent that you would like to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I need sleep. I'll just say that. I have to sleep. And if I don't, I'm just a terrible person to everybody. Yes. I'll admit it. I am not a joy to be around. And I know it. So that's why I prioritize it. And I need it. My children are not either. We had a little bit of a rough night the other night, pregnancy insomnia. I was up for like a couple hours.
Yes.
They, for whatever reason, they just started sharing a room to prep for the baby coming.
Yes.
And they've been doing so amazing, but it took them like an hour and 40 minutes. They were just talking. It was Halloween weekend. So they were very excited. They were talking about what's your favorite candy? And this is my ghost noise. And like, they were just, I love to listen on the monitor. They were saying my husband makes better smoothies than I do. Not so nice things about mom, but
I was going to say, hey.
Seriously, well, because I put like fruit in mine and he puts like cookies in his. So I agree. Mine are not as great as his. That's the next morning, miserable.
Yeah.
It was dark. It was rainy out already. I didn't sleep well. They didn't sleep well. It was not a good day.
Right.
And I can recognize like, this is because none of us got good sleep. Yes. And I can't imagine if this was us regularly. If we none of us got good sleep all the time, this is what it would be like. And I couldn't take it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because my oldest will wake up, the air quotes, on the wrong side of the bed sometimes, and you can just, everything's a chore. It's like getting out of bed. It's like the slouching out of bed and the changing of the clothes. And he doesn't know what he would pick to wear the clothes, which on a good day, he had a real stretch where that was, even on his most cheerful day, that was a long decision. But now it's not. But if he's, and then coming downstairs for breakfast, and it's just, and he's 2, and it's like he's like a little teenager, like what you see in the movies, and it's like,
I don't want this, and I don't want that, and you're like, well, this is all I got.
Yeah, and it's so.
At 8 a.m. Can we just how do we turn this around?
Absolutely. So. No, and I thought that self-awareness piece that you're saying, like, I know that I'm a bear. What I'm saying, so then I can say mine is more hanger, which we'll have a podcast, right? But hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That's what they talk about. Those are kind of the common things that get people in a funk, and tired being absolutely one of the most important. So, well, I really appreciate you coming in. Any final thoughts on how people can be successful in their own sleep hygiene?
Yeah, really just a routine, like basically a routine to set you up. You probably as an adult have a routine. If you don't, and you're not sleeping well, that's going to be helpful. But your little one needs the same thing, just to know, okay, these things mean that sleep is coming and expected. So having a solid routine about the same time every single night is going to set you up for success. Overnight, if they're waking, having a different routine. What am I going to do when you wake up? Am I going to run right in? Am I going to wait? Am I going to pick you up? Am I going to soothe you in your crib or bassinet? Having that routine too, consistently is going to make the difference. So it's really just deciding what you want, deciding how you want to go about that, and actually implementing it for at least 10 days straight. It's going to make huge changes in your family's sleep.
Amazing. Yes, that consistency piece. Obviously, a routine doesn't start in one day. I like that you made sure to say, like, do it for 10 days.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yep. You can't just do it once and say, well, didn't work for us, because this is the first time that your child has ever experienced this. They're not going to know what you're doing. You're going to be kind of iffy on what you're doing yourself. So it's not going to go that smoothly. You have to continue it so it feels better for you. And they know, okay, this is the routine. This isn't just like a one-off night that randomly I'm put in bed at 7:30 and my parents leave the room.
Right. That's exactly right. And I like that very much that you mentioned about, like, it's hard for us as adults to remember, like, this is the first time this human has experienced this, like the color blue,
Yes. It's brand new.
Everything is brand new. Everything is brand new. And it's funny because sometimes it's easy for us to kind of overlook that piece and be like, okay, well, this isn't that, like, it's common sense. And it's like, but it's not, because it's a baby and everything is new. So that's another.
You have played it out in your head. Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to say. This is what I hope they do. They are just laying there like, oh, so what's happening? They have no idea that this is coming. So you cannot expect for them the first night to know, oh, I remember this plan that they talked out with me, and I'm only 4 months old. I got it. Like, they have no idea. They are just as confused. So
absolutely. And it is. They don't really have that critical thinking piece quite nailed down yet. So thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to make sure that we touched on that as well, because I read that in my Wonder Weeks book a couple days ago, and I don't know, I read it and I'm like, of course I knew that, but it was like, I just need to remember that. And even for my 2-year-old, some things for him, not a lot. Of course, we live in the same place and we see the same people because there's a global pandemic. But, any sort of new change, I need to be more flexible. I need to be able to be willing to say, like, you may not react well to this because it's new and you're 2.
It's not new to you, but it's totally, he has no concept of, like, this may be similar to this, or I have seen this before, maybe it will be similar. No, it's just completely new, completely different, has no idea that it's coming. So
absolutely. So that, I appreciate you mentioning that too, because that's a really big piece that I think a lot of us find ourselves being. I find my patience waning sometimes when I'm like, it's so obvious, he should just know this, why doesn't he know this? And it's like, oh, because he's 2, like, right? And even when they've, like, oh, he's done it before, why can't he do it again? Well, because he's 2. So
and even as an adult, like, yes, I read something, I know it, but can I put it into practice? Can I really actually internalize it?
Do I get on that
again and again and do it again and again?
That's right. Do I get on that Peloton bike every morning? I sure don't. Do I know how to do it? Do I know why I need to do it? But do I? Although I do love it. But I got to say, I mean, it's just something really important to keep in mind. And, are your emotions always in check? When something changes for you, do you always respond with the most grace and dignity? No. And I'm 36. So let's not expect little soldiers to be marching behind us, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, well, I cannot thank you enough. This has been so much fun.
Hey, it was so fun.
What a pleasure. And just honestly, one of the most important topics anybody could ever do. I'm so grateful that you were so able and willing and excited to jump in so soon.
Of course.
So where can the family find you?
Yes, you can hop on my website, babyoandiconsulting.com. You can always send me an email. I'll spell my first name, Jensine, Jensine at babyoniconsulting.com, or on Instagram, babyoni, since that's where we met.
Yes. Okay, perfect. And I'll put all of that in the show notes too. But thank you for that. And again, just thank you so much. And you know what? Well, I'm sure I will have more questions and thoughts, and maybe we'll come back for sleep part 2.
Yes, sounds good. I can talk about sleep all day. So
yes, good. All right. Well, wonderful. Let me just stop this recording.